The flood of leaks on the rumored Assassin's Creed Rift game seems to be unstoppable, and apparently, according to at least 3 sources, the final name for the game has gotten through, and potential spoiler warning, it's going to be called Assassin's Creed Mirage. In the video, we're going to go through all the recent rumors and leaks about the game, including some information that hasn't been reported by the press recently, some juicy news about a return to the Assassin's Creed basics and a homage to Assassin's Creed 1, but also a number of information that have been debunked or belong to some rumors that have been debunked. So let's pick a bucket of grains of salt and let's dive into all the recent leaks about Assassin's Creed Mirage. And we start with a big elephant in the room, that is the final name of the rumored and upcoming Assassin's Creed game, originally codenamed Rift, which was unofficially reported by multiple sources to be set in 9th century Baghdad and starring Basim ibn Ishaq from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So we mentioned it already in the intro, you might have seen it on social media already, but in the last few days, at least 3 sources have reported on the final name of the game, which apparently is going to be called Assassin's Creed Mirage. We now find out that the news actually broke on August the 19th from journalist Colin Moriarty, who in a recent episode of his Sacred Symbols podcast mentioned that he did not have any other detail about the game, but he had heard from a reliable source that had been right about other leaks in the past that Project Rift would have actually be finally named Assassin's Creed Mirage. The second source that leaked this name was YouTuber Jonathan, who had already leaked several information about past releases of the franchise, most of which were correct, and who actually released a video where he shared a number of information he had collected recently from different sources, and one of these was that the final name of the game, formerly known as Assassin's Creed Rift, would have been indeed Assassin's Creed Mirage, and that the game was seemingly planned for a date between April and June 2023. The third source, possibly the most reliable here, was of course journalist Jason Schreier, who commented on the list of information shared by Jonathan by saying that his own sources confirmed to him that part of Jonathan's leak was correct, including the release window, the game being set in Baghdad, a presumed return to the Assassin's Creed basics from the original games, and especially the name that Jonathan reported. So as it's been the case multiple times already, Schreier's words sort of sealed the deal, corroborating once and for all that the new Assassin's Creed game set in 9th century Baghdad and starring Basim ibn Ishaq is very likely to be called Assassin's Creed Mirage. But as we mentioned, the information shared by YouTuber Jonathan didn't stop there, so let's have a look at what he shared, keeping in mind that some of this was indeed confirmed to be true by Jason Schreier, but also some of this was also deemed incorrect. So as usual, but we should do this with every leak, once again, please pick all of this information with a grain of salt. Jonathan started by stating that the game originally was a Valhalla DLC turned into a full game, which we already knew, and that the game is actually going to be presented on the Ubisoft Forward event on September 10th. I think this had never been mentioned in the leaks, though it was easy to expect considering that most leaks were pointing to September anyway. As we mentioned, Jonathan reported that his sources told him that the game is planned between April and June 2023, with Bloomberg actually reporting the May to June window, and as it is almost common knowledge at this point, he also stated that the game will star Basim before the events shown in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Speaking of the story, he did say that the game should take place in Baghdad between 860 and 870 AD. For reference, Assassin's Creed Valhalla starts in 872, and it will be set during the historical period known as the Anarchy at Samarra, a period of extreme instability of the history of the Abbasid Caliphate. It's worth noting that recently Aconite Books has announced a new Assassin's Creed novel called The Golden City, starring Basim and Hytham, that is going to be set in Constantinople in 867, and that's official information, so I guess the events of Mirage should either take place before that, or might also happen in parallel to those of the books. Whatever the case, according to Jonathan, within Mirage we are supposedly going to play as a young Basim who should be a thief at the time, up until he somehow meets the Hidden ones who, again, it's an easy one there, but if I'm not mistaken, they had not been rumored to be part of the game up until now. Jonathan said he didn't know the full story of the game, but quote-unquote, without a doubt we're going to perform some assassinations, or instead provoke them similarly to what happened in Assassin's Creed 1. As a consequence of that, Jonathan reported that Mirage is going to be a full return to the basics, and even a homage to Assassin's Creed 1, with new animations akin to AC1, visuals and tones that are similar to that game, tinier maps, and apparently multiple cities, all of them separated by deserts and rivers like the Kingdom area of Assassin's Creed 1, but apparently, while Schreier corroborated this return to form and to the basic of Assassin's Creed 1, he actually debunked the idea of having multiple cities and a common area, which, according to him and his sources, does seem to be incorrect. Apparently, the environments of Mirage will be developed more than in the recent games, which, according to Jonathan, will allow for a comeback of parkour as well, though he didn't expand on that concept. Other classic elements coming back will be the Eagle Vision as we know it from the original games, which had already come back with Valhalla to be honest, while we'll also have a bird flying around, though it's not clear which function it will have. Apparently the double assassinations will return too, although in an original way, as Basim is going to wear only one hidden blade, and the rope dart will return as well, which should be a reference to the rope dart used by Basim in the final confrontation with Eivor in Valhalla, but apparently this time the rope dart will be used to assassinate enemies. Jonathan added that Mirage will bring the end of the RPG style to the franchise, as it won't feature dialogue choices, gender choice, or a leveling system, and while this had been sort of leaked before, unless I got it wrong, I don't really believe that a smaller scope game like this is going to bring the end of the RPG style to the franchise, especially considering how successful Valhalla was, and also the rumors about Project Red that we discussed in the last few weeks. Now this might be a little spoilery, considering it's about the modern day and some issue content, so you're warned if you like to avoid any risks should this turn out to be true, but the game supposedly will not have any modern day sequences other than one at the beginning, which will show Basim entering the Animus, but that, quote unquote, could change. Jonathan also mentioned that he heard rumors about some quote-unquote visions of Loki that Basim might experience. Apparently players will have to find these on the map, sort of like the Animus anomalies in Valhalla, and these, according to Jonathan, should show how Loki manifested into Basim's body and how he managed to consume him, which, if proved to be true, means that the game will supposedly show the real and original Basim and what actually led him to become the Basim that we know from Valhalla, which is essentially Loki controlling Basim's body. Jonathan also mentioned in his video that he got to know that Ubisoft is supposedly working in secret on the Assassin's Creed 1 remake that fans have been clamoring for quite some time now. In his words, the game will be mostly based on assets coming from Mirage and will apparently release some months after it, so I would imagine that would be the end of 2023, and he also added that a rumor he heard mentioned that a season pass for Assassin's Creed Mirage might actually contain a DLC for the game set in Constantinople, and also the coveted AC1 remake, even though we must say that the info about the DLC of the game set in Constantinople was already mentioned in a rumor from a month ago that called the game Assassin's Creed Anarchy, that said that the game would release in early 2023, and that was also pretty much debunked by the more solid info by Bloomberg and Jason Schreier, so I wouldn't buy too much into that information. Again, take all of this with a huge grain of salt. Some of these pieces of information have been debunked already by Jason Schreier, some other info like the Constantinople DLC have somewhat already proven to not be that solid, but in itself, the rest of the information, if proven to be true, if it actually portrays the game, does seem to be pretty interesting. Longtime fans have been asking for a return to the basics for years now, not only in terms of visuals, but also in terms of gameplay, topics, themes, philosophy, and narrative in general. And make no mistake, Valhalla's main game already did a big step in that direction, bringing back a lot of classic elements that had been missing in the franchise for years, even if it did have to compromise with the RPG nature of the game and the setting too, to a degree. But this time, it does look that Rift, or shall I say Mirage, is going to be an entire game that at least tries to honor the original games of the franchise, and especially Assassin's Creed 1. and if that's going to be the case, it's also likely going to be a huge test by Ubisoft for the fandom. Will there be enough people still interested in this type of game within the Assassin's Creed franchise? Will they show up to support it if it's going to be successful, or is the base of the Assassin's Creed customers now too oriented towards RPG, choices, and fantasy elements to be interested in this? Only time, and maybe the response to the Ubisoft Forward presentation, will tell. But until then, it does look like we're left to speculate with the information and rumors we have at our disposal, such as how the future Assassin's Creed game, presumed to be set in Japan, might be focused on ninjas, which we specifically covered in our latest video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon!